Então, agradeço esse espaço, estou muito feliz de estar aqui compartilhando com vocês essa discussão sobre ousar imaginar uma internet que contribua com a luta por justiça socioambiental.
Pavel from Blue Link. I don't know if Pablo, he was having some problems to connect. Just checking if he managed to do so. I don't think so. Okay, so I just wanted to share a little bit of what we'll be doing today with you. I'll be sharing very briefly some ideas regarding the thinking behind this workshop, the conversations that we have been having on the network, and basically what's the analytical framework that we are using for our work in this area. Then I'll pass on the word to Alan, that will present research that we are doing with members and partners trying to map the environmental and digital rights context. And then we'll have an interaction with some invitees. We'll be working on 2 questions, and our idea is that our invitees will come up and bring some key ideas to the table, but then we will open up and have a conversation with you all. So in terms of how we have been framing this work and this workshop, in the session, we'll be exploring the links between different rights and different rights movements. Our goal is really to identify the crossroads that could allow us to start building a common agenda between different movements. We'll make reference to different categories of rights. We'll be talking here about human rights, environmental rights, and digital rights. But in one way, we consider that this division is actually artificial. Digital rights are like the new face of human rights in our contemporary digital societies. And by referring to digital rights, we are talking about how technology, and in particular ICTs, impact on the manner in which we exercise our human rights, both online and offline. Environmental rights are not yet granted in international law the same status as human rights, but we believe they should, and we call on the UN, in particular the UN Human Rights Council, to do so. But the truth is that many of the challenges that impact on these categories of rights are intertwined, especially as they affect individuals and communities in situations of vulnerability and marginalization. So these communities are always the most impacted by violations of human, digital, and environmental rights. Take, for example, indigenous groups in the Amazon. They are struggling for the protection of their lands, for their forests, for their culture. And in doing so, they commonly have several of their human and digital rights violated. For example, they are threatened, many are killed, they have no access to communications to tell the world about what's going on, to share the stories, many are surveilled. So what we see is that the relationship between technology and the environment is quite complex. While technology is many times seen as the solution, as the best tool to face climate change and environmental degradation, increased consumption and production of ICTs end up contributing to harmful emissions and waste, impact on land from mining, and as I already mentioned, lead to violations of human rights, including, for example, labor-related violations and many others. So really for us, human rights, digital rights, and environmental rights should be taught as a continuum. However, of course, the movements working on these different areas, they have not always joined forces. And we consider that really to face these enormous challenges that we have today in these 3 areas, we cannot tackle them in isolation any longer. And the question then is, how can these movements overcome the challenges of speaking a different language, of working on different policy spaces, of using different strategies, and actually manage to work on a shared agenda. And this is really what we want to discuss here today. We are seeking to identify the foundations for a rights-based governance to the internet that takes into consideration environmental rights. And in order to proceed with our conversation, I'm going to stop again and just check if Pavel managed to join us. No, okay, so let me just introduce you to a tool that we'll be using today, because as I said, we'll open up with 2 questions that will be presented to speakers, but we want you all also to reflect on these questions. And maybe Shauna, if you could share the screen now and present our tool. So we'll be sharing with you all a link to a shared drive. And in the shared drive, you have the 2 questions that we'll be discussing today. The first one is, how are environmental rights intersecting with digital rights? They are broad questions, but what we want with the first one, can we go to the following slide, Shona? Is really to try to identify in very concrete terms how these rights are reinforcing each other, how they are conflicting with each other, or there's a potential for conflict. And the next one, if you would like to think of other ways in which they are intersecting with each other, you can use the third slide, and you can just take one of these post-its and write your ideas in the post-its. And what we would like to do is, like, you go to this tool, you can insert your own comments, but then while doing that and looking at the other comments that are there, maybe you agree, maybe you think that there's another very good point that was already raised by someone else. And then we invite you to drag one of the plus signs that you have on the bottom and kind of cast your vote next to the post-it. So really just showing the +1. I also agree with that point, so that we can really start to collect priorities. So please just include your own ideas, but also if you would like to reinforce and support other people's ideas, please use the plus sign, and we can also have this understanding about commonalities and priorities. And then the second question, can we go to the second question, Shona? Is how can digital rights and environmental defenders work together towards shared priorities? And here we again have different slides. So what we thought we could explore in the first slide is really the different levels in which these defenders could work together. So you could take the post-it and you can also drag the post-it and try to identify if this is something that they could be doing at the global, regional, or local level. And again, you have the plus sign there. So if you want to agree with other people's ideas, you have that option. And could you move to the next slide, Shona? We always give you the possibility as well. If you want to use another structure and you just want to make your comments irrespective of this idea of global, regional, and local, you can just use this slide and just leave your messages there. You can always copy and paste the slides. So if they are over, we have a final slide at the end that has a number of extra post-its. You can just copy, paste, or cut and paste. Shauna has shared the link. So what we will do now is really to, while we are listening to our speakers, we invite you to reflect, to take note of any key points that you hear and really engage using this tool with the conversation that will be taking place among them. And now I can see that Pavel has joined us. So welcome, Pavel. I just explained the tool and presented the question. So it's over to you for introducing the yourself, the speakers, and moving on.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Pavel Antonov. I am representing Blue Link, the Bulgarian civil society e-network. And as you can see, I am having significant troubles handling technology, which my organization is a member of APC's sort of promoting for the last 22 years. I am particularly excited to be at this workshop because it is a next step in a process which has taken, as I said, over 2 decades for us. Blue Link started as a network for civil society environmental groups in Bulgaria, back in the time when the internet was a very new and exciting opportunity for all of us. And we thought that it will provide the solution for most of our problems, including nature protection and making our societies more sustainable. This did not quite work like this, as you may know. Over the past let's say 10 years, we have seen a very interesting new shift, which in a few words is that we have unprecedented access to technology as citizens, as activists, as users. And we have really, unfortunately, unprecedented decrease of our impact. We have we meaning the green movement, which we're working with, we're experiencing significant pressures